Although Democrats are no longer attacking Trump, well, of course they still are, but they're really going after Elon Musk. And what a cruel person he is, because he sent an email demanding that federal employees simply list their accomplishments in the past week or they're going to be fired. Now, Donald Trump was asked about this and he is standing by Elon Musk.
You're talking about the last email that was sent where he wanted to know what you did this week. You know why he wanted that, by the way? I thought it was great, because we have people that don't show up to work and nobody even knows if they work for the government. So by asking the question, tell us what you did this week, what he's doing is saying, are you actually working? And then if you don't answer, like you're sort of semi-fired or you're fired, because a lot of people are not answering because they don't even exist. They're trying to, that's how badly various parts of our government were run by, and especially by this last group.
It's amusing that there are still people out there arguing with this, that if you have staff that can't tell you what they did each day, let alone each week, and they're being paid by the taxpayer, surely they have to go.
Of all the things that Democrats could get Elon Musk on, and there are many, this seems to be one of the worst targets yet. I mean, it's a pretty simple request. Just tell us what you did last week. I don't know why it's been taken with such gusto by parts of the Democratic circles that this is suddenly this incredibly scandalous thing to ask of your employees. It's actually incredibly common practice in the private sector. So, yeah,
yes, it is.
It seems bizarre to me. And I'd also add, I'm not really sure what Trump meant by semi-fired, but I have no doubt that they will go through these potential termination of contracts. And 1,600 people have now been cut out of USAID. I suspect we're going to be seeing very similar terminations happening elsewhere in the federal government as well. The one thing to note here is that there have been some carve-outs. So Pete Hegseth of Defense, Kash Patel of the FBI, Tulsi Gabbard of National Intelligence, these are obviously all departments with big national security concerns. So they have actually been requesting a carve-out and said, actually, you don't need to proceed with Elon Musk's request because some of the stuff you're doing is sensitive. But again, it's sending shivers through the bureaucracy because they're not used to this kind of thing. They're not used to going to the office. They're not used to actually having to send in their work at the end of the week. And this is a real shakeup, and it's something that is desperately needed.
Absolutely. We're seeing that, aren't we? Now, Trump has announced that Dan Bongino will serve as the next deputy director of the FBI. Trump posted on Truth Social, great news for law enforcement and American justice. Dan Bongino, a man of incredible love and passion for our country, has just been named the next deputy director of the FBI by the man who will be the best ever director, Kash Patel. James, what will the FBI look like under Kash Patel and Dan Bongino?
Well, I'm really intrigued because they've now got two complete outsiders with zero FBI experience. And while Democrats may try to criticize them for that, I think that's actually a real strength. Bongino, he does have a background in the police. He was serving at the New York Police Department, and he was also a Secret Service agent for some time. So he does have some quote unquote deep state experience. And again, that is also important because you need to know how these bureaucracies actually operate and how they function and what they can get from them. So I think this is a really exciting time in American politics. I'm intrigued to see where it goes.
Look, Australia's Treasurer Jim Chalmers is set to visit the US for talks, including talks about tariffs. He's going to continue to push for steel and aluminium tariff exemptions. Our Treasurer Jim Chalmers says that he'll be holding one-on-one conversations with his Treasury counterpart. What do you suspect is going to come out of this? What's the plan with Donald Trump and tariffs? Do you think Australia is safe?
I would be, if I was an Australian, I would be feeling pretty optimistic right now. Australia were actually exempted from tariffs in the first Trump presidency, and I suspect we're going to see something similar here. The key reason being is that actually the US runs a surplus with Australia, something like $15 billion. So where Trump likes to criticize Canada, Mexico, and European partners for not putting their weight in, well, this is the issue, that because they run a deficit with them. But because Australia actually runs a surplus, I think that's a real plus point. I'd also add that Australia, unlike Europe and NAFTA, it serves a really important partner in the Indo-Pacific, and it's a key bulwark against China. So when you have all these factors together, and let's not forget the AUKUS deal, where they have just signed a $500 million nuclear submarine deal, I think a lot of these factors are pointing in a very positive direction for Australians.
And it appears that Apple is making decisions to avoid tariffs. Donald Trump said that Apple CEO Tim Cook promised him that the tech giant's manufacturing would shift from Mexico to the United States. And today, Apple has announced that it plans to invest more than $500 billion in the US over the next 4 years, including plans to hire 20,000 people and build a new server factory in Texas. Is this the Trump effect, with more investment coming into the States?
Well, they might not say so, but it certainly is. I mean, it's no coincidence this has happened 5 weeks after Donald Trump has entered office and just a few weeks after tariffs have come into effect. Apple obviously has a lot of operations in Asia, most notably China, which is a key adversary of the United States. And, you know, something very similar happened in Trump's first term, where they promised a £250 million investment, sorry, $250 million investment in America and American production. And it's also no mistake that these kind of operations are building up in red states like Texas and Arizona, very popular with Trump's constituencies. So I think it's very hard to dismiss the fact that, yes, after these tariff announcements came more domestic production from Apple. Now, it's not completely perfect because they are also expanding in other parts of Asia like Vietnam and India. But the fact that it's looking to decouple from China, I think, is a great sign for American national security interests.
Finally, James, I want to get your thought on what Vice President JD Vance has had to say. He delivered a pretty powerful message for young men at CPAC. Let's take a listen.
My message to young men is, don't allow this broken culture to send you a message that you're a bad person because you're a man, because you like to tell a joke, because you like to have a beer with your friends, or because you're competitive. It's our cultural message is, I think that it wants to turn everybody, into, whether male or female, into androgynous idiots who think the same, talk the same, and act the same. We actually think God made male and female for a purpose, and we want you guys to thrive as young men and as young women, and we're going to help with our public policy to make it possible to do that.
Look, I suspect that this message really resonates, especially after years of the Me Too movement, plenty of years of the left shaming men. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I think without doubt the pendulum has swung too far the other way since 2015. And in the Western world, not just America, we have hit this crisis point in what masculinity truly means. And Democrats tried to propose their own version of masculinity through Vice President Tim Walz, and that was cast out pretty quickly. I think what JD Vance is doing is actually tapping into a real malaise across America and what's going on. I mean, just to run through some stats, labor participation, college enrollment, high school enrollment, they're all just going in a downturn for men compared to women. So this is like a really important point he has to make, and I really hope the Republican administration can do something about it.
James Billot, editor at UnHerd, so good to speak with you. Thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour.
Thank you.